The 3:30 p.m. meeting of the Bakersfield City Council is now in session.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to call to order the 3:30 regular City Council meeting of May 18th, 2022. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Go.
Here.
Vice Mayor Weir.
Here.
Councilmember Arias. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
I'm here.
Councilmember Freeman. Councilmember Gray. Here. And Councilmember Parlier.
Here.
Thank you. In keeping with Council's resolution, the public statements portion is now divided into two periods. There's a period for items listed on the meeting agenda and items not on the meeting agenda. Statements for items listed on this afternoon's agenda are given a 2-minute time limit, 20 minutes per agenda item. Statements regarding items not listed on the agenda are also given a 2-minute time limit, 20 minutes total. If you have written comments that are longer than your verbal statement, give them to the clerk, who will give copies to the council. If you're here to make a public statement, please fill out a public speaker card and give your completed card to the city clerk. We ask that you mark whether you're here to speak on an item listed on this afternoon's agenda or a matter not on the agenda. Speakers who do not identify the agenda item on which they wish to speak will be presumed speakers for the non-agenda portion. Those speakers will be called during the non-agenda portion of the meeting. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers regarding items on this afternoon's agenda?
Mayor Go, we have not received any speaker cards regarding items listed on tonight's agenda.
Do we have any speaker cards for items not listed on the agenda?
Mayor Go, we also have not received any speaker cards for items not listed on tonight's agenda.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Reports item 3A, report on Bakersfield City Council Visioning Workshop.
Thank you. Mr. Clegg.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's my privilege this afternoon to cover an overview of the content that came out of the Council Visioning Workshop. But just to set some context, probably largely for the public record, the importance of having a vision statement, goal statements. This was a topic that was referred by Vice Mayor Weir and something that was supported by the full council to spend time adopting a more formal vision statement and council goal statements. A vision really sets the focus for the future. It's a statement of where the city's going, or a picture that's being painted for our future. And the City Council began their work developing a city vision with a facilitator actually doing interviews with all the council members, as well as meeting with city staff and department directors, and then ultimately coming together in a workshop and spending an entire day talking through the important topics. And also, I would just note that I think we were fortunate to have a visual recorder join us for that workshop to help put some of this information into some context to help us think about these topics. So from the workshop, as I mentioned, the visual recorder, this is just to sort of share that there were several key areas that council focused in on from the vision, and I had all this information up on a big flip chart and tried to distill it down into a couple of pages summary for council reflection, and I'll provide an overview of that today. Important things that were discussed in the visioning conversation are these key themes. Very much about quality of life, creating opportunity. That's opportunity for residents, opportunities for businesses to be successful. Also safety, critical for our community to feel safe, as well as economic vitality, having an attractive, beautiful community, but also leveraging on the natural beauty that's already in our community. Interesting theme that I don't think you see in all of these across cities that do this work, that there was a recognition that one of the aspects of Bakersfield that makes it a good quality of life is the affordability here, and how do we continue to think about and focus on maintaining that affordability, but also thinking forward and trying to be innovative, enterprising, finding new ways of doing good work in this community. So in consultation with our facilitator, sharing back, the council saw a couple of different options, tried to distill it down as best we could. And I should have said this at the outset, that the goal today is not to adopt. This is just reporting out on the information from the visioning workshop. But for council consideration, a vision statement about Bakersfield that honors its tradition of being a welcoming, hardworking community, offering exceptional quality of life and opportunity for all. This gathered together the consensus thoughts as best as we could to both reflect on the history, but also look forward into the future. At the same time, though, council spent time thinking about what are strategic focus areas, where are some of the key themes that will help to drive forward that vision. There were some that will be presented as council goal statements, and others that were really themes that kind of cut across all the council goals, and those are these here. There was a lot of energy around engaging and connecting with the community, promoting that technology, creativity, and innovation. Technology was a really strong theme that really cut across all of the council focus areas, as well as promoting and maintaining the quality of life that has been appreciated and valued here historically. Aside from those key themes that cut across all of the areas, there were 5 goal statements that we felt spoke to the essence of the council vision. First is economic opportunity for all, about having a diverse, thriving economy that sustains that quality of life. Safety and resilience. I think for comparison's sake, for council, we have council goals around public safety and homelessness, and this one really gets at safety and resilience in a combined fashion. That it's about feeling safe, also having crime rates that are low, and as it relates to homelessness, that it's infrequent and brief, and that our residents don't feel the impacts of that homelessness. Infrastructure continues to be an important role, I think, of the city, and that was reflected in council's feedback about having well-maintained infrastructure that supports our quality of life and economic development, as well as into the future, being forward thinking about what types of parks, streets, and other amenities are important from an infrastructure standpoint. Community character and quality of life. This one also kind of combines several thoughts together that were really focused on quality of life, but in the sense of place as well. So our neighborhoods, our business districts, our downtown, and creating quality of life in those areas. So the statement is neighborhoods are healthy, vibrant, and full of opportunity, and residents are attracted to Bakersfield's affordability. Community members and visitors enjoy the city's revitalized, modern, and walkable downtown and business districts. And then lastly, this is a little different from our current council goals in that, and I'll admit this is something that I was very interested in the conversation around, is that we should have a government organization that's efficient and innovative, and that there are many important goals around this. If you think about our ERP software program, where would that fit in council goals? Previously, it was listed under fiscal solvency. It will help with our finances, but it's really more about being a transformative, efficient government, and this would be a great place for a goal like that to land, and that we are a professional, effective, customer-oriented organization that brings solutions forward for our community, and that our finances are well managed to make sure we have a prosperous future. So these are goal statements, again, that were distilled out of the conversation from the workshop. And really the goal for today was to report out on these and to have some discussion from council and hence have some feedback of this captures the vision as was discussed and hits the key points. Where I would take this forward with staff is as council refines what are our big goal statements, policy statements, as we have on other areas, come back to council with very specific action items that are in support of those council goal statements. What are the key things we're going to deliver in support of those philosophies or goal statements? And ultimately, too, we have developed as staff a set of guiding principles or values of how we're going to treat one another and the community as city employees, as well as they form an acronym that serves as a mission statement for us, and that Bakersfield cares, that we would connect that to this vision and goal statements and have the strategies and tactics to deliver on those goal statements. But first step is really vetting out and refining to have the right goal statements, and then we'll be prepared to come back with the big ticket items that will get us to achieving those goal statements. With that, that's my initial report. Happy to answer questions and really invite discussion of the council reflecting on these. And I have the clicker if you'd want me to go back to the vision statement or any one of the goal statements. I think that would be productive.
Thank you, Mr. Clegg. Colleagues? I don't see any requests to speak. Are you having? Okay, we need technology. We need some help with requests to speak. So go ahead. Was that you? Vice Mayor? Oh, okay. Who is trying to raise their hand? Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I just appreciate the time we spent together and what came out of it. To me, I think your initial statement that this is a more formal way of stating the vision that a lot of the council members have had for some time. And I think that our budgets and actions reflect this vision that is now moving towards a formal statement. And I think, it goes back to this council giving the community the opportunity on the PSVS, and since then moving forward on the goals and opportunities that has given us. So I appreciate it, and it seems to me that our present budget is moving towards what we talked about. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. This has been a long time coming, and it's something that the city needs to drive itself. We need to know where we are now, we need to know where we're going, and we need to know how to get there. And while it might require some wordsmithing along the way, I think it's a tremendous start to actually driving to what we want to achieve. As far as the work that Christian has laid out, that staff has to do, and how to get there, I hope those are measurable standards. So we decide, this is what we need to do, this is how we're going to get there, and then what is success? And then we can evaluate that as we move along through this process. But it's a tremendous step forward for this council, I believe, and I hope that we follow through and give it the importance that it really deserves. Thank you.
If I may, Vice Mayor, just really quickly, I'm glad you said that. It was something I failed to mention, but yes, the outcome measures for each of the 5 goal statements, staff will produce outcome measures that will really serve as a dashboard. I think it's important for each specific action item to have a measurable, but also have a broad set of measures that say, are we creating jobs? Are we reducing Part 1 crimes? And have a dashboard that's reflective of these 5 goal statement areas that we can report on an annual basis, the same measures every year, as well as having specific ways to measure those actions and tactics that we're doing each year in our annual work plan, but having that dashboard really serve as a pulse for the community. How are we doing? are we really delivering on economic opportunity and safety and so forth? So that will be part of our delivery.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you. Well, if that's not working, so technology, we're still having issues out here. Councilmember Freeman is not able to raise his hand.
Thank you. I agree with my colleagues. I think you did a particularly good job, Christian and your staff, of wordsmithing the vision. But I think Councilman said, yeah, you were able to describe what we've all been thinking and believing for a long time and encapsulating it. One thing that I was hoping might come out of this, and still can, without changing anything, but let's just say an additional layer of thinking that I'd kind of like to see us do is, and when Councilman Weir first brought this up, I was thinking this when he started saying, I want to know what this community is going to look like in 10 years. I want us to think about what we want our community to look like in 10 years. He used phrases like that. And I was taking it a little more literally. And what I'd like each council member, and it's fine with me, I think we can somehow figure out how we can work on this, come up with creative ideas, and staff. Describe the most important thing to yourself, or maybe the big three that you want to see concretely 10 years from now in our community. Someone might say, I want to see, Christopher Boyle might say, I want to see a minimum of 3,000 new affordable housing units built in this town in certain areas. Get a little bit more specific. For me, about a year ago, I came up with the idea, I thought we ought to have a tech park in this. I've been reading all my urban land students in all these cities doing tech parks. I went to Christian, I went to Bolthouse Farm, said, not farm proper, I said, we need a tech park. It has to be aligned with the university, it has to be close. You're close. They've already set the land aside. I've talked to the director in Arizona, the biggest one in the country, and I've talked to Christian, but nothing really has happened. I think if we describe, we want to have a tech park with 1 million square feet. If we describe something, we start setting some, you really almost have to visualize it. I mean, you get concrete in your thought. If we come up with 10 things, and Patty may have a different one. Bob may have, he knows downtown. He might have some ideas downtown that wouldn't occur to me because he really knows it and works it, and same with Andre. But and I'm thinking about tech parks and affordable housing. So maybe we could take it another layer of it's just kind of brainstorming or having someone, you could do it, Christian. Take each to breakfast or something and say, what are your 3 big ideas? And let's get them down and get some, because right now it's kind of vague. I'd like to have 10 things out there that we're saying, that's really exciting. How do we make that happen and it's concrete? And maybe it takes 10 years, maybe it takes 5. But without those more concrete goals, we will not have a path to get there. For example, I want a freeway to I-5. I told you, we will never grow this region, ever, as a distribution center, and it's the only thing we have going for us in the entire region. The only thing is a future distribution center. I said, I want that West Side Free extended to I-5. We're not going to make it if we don't do that. And talk to Chris, well, that would be part of my vision. How do we get that done? I know Caltrans and funding and all these things, and they take a long time. We need another Bill Thomas. Maybe Kevin will be speaker and get us some money. But those are the kind of big goals that I think everybody has in their head that would make this, and are going to be necessary for us to fulfill a thriving economy, a place where people want to live, a quality of life. Your economy is your quality of life. If we don't raise the incomes and bring, wealth and prosperity to our community, well, we can't have nice parks and boulevards and schools and programs for seniors, and we can't do any of those things. So I want people to kind of, I had my boss for 21 years, despite his many faults, because he was a very sort of tough taskmaster, understatement. He made the Fortune SOB list twice, and if you read about those people, you're horrified when you just read what they do. Walk in and fire an entire company like that. Crotchio guy, but he also had pearls of wisdom, because he'd been dropped out of school in 8th grade, became a billionaire, severely dyslexic, all sorts of things. He still became a billionaire, and it was all through obviously drive. It was all through imagination. Kind of like we think of Elon Musk as a man with imagination. You may not like him, but he's taking us into the future. Thank God we have people like Elon Musk, or we wouldn't have, or Bill Gates did, you know. But he said, to do the impossible, you must see the invisible. I always thought it was kind of hokey. And he had this little plaque on his desk. Every time you walked in, you had to look over that plaque. There were 2 plaques. One said, it can be done. The other said, to do the impossible, you must see the invisible. And he really believed those in his core. And he held you don't ever go in and with an excuse. Like, you never went in with a problem that didn't have to, ever, or you're fired on the spot. It was good to look at that. It can be done. Don't tell me it can't be done. It can be done. And so I kind of learned from him to use my imagination more in developments. So I think all of us can use he used to call it, sounds redundant, the creative imagination. I thought, isn't that kind of a redundant phrase? Because I'm an old English teacher. That's not good grammar. But it had a lot of meaning to him. This guy's turning 100 this year, okay? Still managing big companies, turns 100. So yeah, old-fashioned people talked differently, and he said, use your creative imagination. And he would sort of scream it at you. And he was right. So let's all use our creative imaginations on the big things we'd like to see 5 or 10 years from that are concrete that we have to make happen to fulfill this vision statement. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Freeman. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Councilmember Freeman and his remarks. I think, we talked about this maybe about a year and a half ago, and Mr. Turnipseed's in the audience, and we talked about game changer projects, right? These big investments that we would make as a city that would have a transformative effect on our community over the next 10, 20 years. And I'm reminded of the story of Oklahoma City. In 1991, Oklahoma City actually lost out to Indianapolis for a United Airlines maintenance base. And they began asking themselves, why did they lose that opportunity? And their local economy was declining, and they had to find new jobs. They had to attract new industry. So they approached United Airlines, and they asked, what could it be? Additional incentives? What is it? Regulation? And they said no. They said, we want to build our plant in a place that had a high quality of life for our employees. That's where they wanted to be. And so Oklahoma City put a sales tax measure on the ballot in 1992, and it passed. It was very controversial. And through that, they were able to make significant investments in their ballpark, in arts and culture, public art, in libraries. They had an additional measure to support their local schools. And as a result, Oklahoma City became a world-class city. And so much so that other cities throughout the region began asking them for the secret sauce, and began asking them to share with them how they could follow in their footsteps. And so I think it's exciting. It's an exciting time for Bakersfield because we are on the cusp of something extraordinary as a California city that really is going to become something special and unique and different over the next 20, 25 years. And it starts now. We are laying the foundation now. It started actually in 2018 when the voters approved PSVS, to Councilmember Smith's point. But now is the time that we make those investments strategically, smartly, but also boldly, and we just start doing it. And so I'm excited about this document, but I'm also very excited about what Councilmember Freeman's talking about, that additional layer, so we can really identify those big ticket game changer projects so we can transform this community for the better.
If I may, one way I would compare what I think you should expect to see from staff in response to these goal statements compared to what your council goals look like today. Some of the action items in the council goals reports that you've received over the last couple of years are pretty in the weeds. They're pretty minute, and they're not necessarily strategic, I would argue, some of them. And so I think when I come back to you, let me back up. I feel like I've been hearing from council many of these that are your top 3 or your top 5 or your top 10. And so I'd like to suggest that it probably would be productive for me to come back and say, here's what I think are the real big ticket items in each of these 5 areas, and see if there's others that council wants to add. But that would be an easy start, because I've been hearing from you what those big ticket items are. And really, the staff action items are going to be more focused on those big strategic items. We'll, of course, have our departmental business plans that are way down into the minutia of how to deliver on those big ticket items. But what you'll see in the council goals, action plans year over year from staff will probably be at a little more strategic level than it's been over the last few years. And we'll keep it focused on that real big picture, and keep things running, keep the trains moving in the background, and do what we do, but have the council follow up and reports be on those big ticket items.
Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez. Let's see any other requests to speak. Vice Mayor?
Motion to receive and file.
If a motion, please cast your votes.
Motion is approved with Councilmember Arias absent.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Adjournment.
Motion to adjourn to closed session.
There is no closed session. So this meeting stands adjourned at 3:57.